3 fantasy football tight ends you can grab late in 2025 drafts. The NFL is wrapping up the preseason as coaches trim their rosters and fantasy football owners put the finishing touches on their draft day strategies. Without any more preseason games to use for analysis, many drafters have been drafting according to narratives from the offseason, hype cycles, and ADP, average draft position, trends. But here's the reality. Fantasy football is frequently won in not the first 3 rounds, but the middle and late ones. That's where insightful managers discover undervalued players, players who are being overlooked because of age, injury history, or even just one down season. And in 2025, no position is a holler for need more than tight end. It's always been a thin position for them at tight end. Beyond perhaps the top 3 or 4 names, the difference in production can be significant, causing many a manager to reach early or settle late. But early ADP data from this year suggests that there are some proven players and some breakout candidates who are being undervalued in drafts. Play your bids right, and you can land a difference maker for the stretch run at a discount. Here are 3 tight ends I think are being overlooked based on their 2025 ADP and why you should be interested in them, especially if you happen to play in a PPR league. Travis Kelce, KC Chiefs photo by Michael Olio/Icon Sportswire via Getty Images 2019 stats. 97 rec, 1,229 yards, 5 TDs. Andy Reid leaned on Kelce, and it was no secret that the tight end had more value in 2019 than in the previous 2 seasons combined. Katrina Grayson, the Chiefs, put up big numbers in the playoffs, and elite production was had by all the players that mattered. Let's begin with the most divisive name on this list, Travis Kelce. Fantasy managers are benching the future Hall of Famer everywhere. The logic is easy to follow. Kelce is 35 years old and will turn 36 in October, and he's coming off a season in which he produced career lows in yardage. Factor in the off-field glare from his relationship with Taylor Swift, and some managers are prepared to give up on him entirely. But let's add some reality to the conversation. Even in what many described as a down year, Kelce still snagged 97 passes for 823 yards on 133 targets. That was a career low for him in yardage, yes, but it still was 5th overall among NFL tight ends. More critically, he settled in at 120 targets in a demoralized passing game in back-to-back years. In a PPR format, that target share is gold. The Chiefs' receiving room is shaky. Rashee Rice might be suspended. Xavier Worthy is a true freshman speedster who is not yet a WR1, and the rest of the depth chart is shaky at best. In other words, Patrick Mahomes will still have to rely on his favorite weapon, the 8th-year tight end Kelce. His ADP right now is the 6th to 9th tight end off the board. That's crazy value for a guy with top 3 upside still at the position. Sure, the cliff has to hit at some point, but betting against Mahomes to Kelce chemistry has been a pretty lousy wager for almost a decade. Verdict: draft Kelce without concern as a middle-round value. In PPR formats, he slots just behind Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and George Kittle. Jake Ferguson, Dallas Cowboys. Up next is a player who was a thorn in the side of fantasy managers a season ago, Jake Ferguson. Following a breakout 2023 season, 71 receptions, 761 yards, 5 TDs, Ferguson was one of 2024's most hyped-up players. But he failed to take another leap, and instead regressed, catching just 59 passes for 494 yards and 0 touchdowns. It was that lack of scoring that sunk anyone who drafted him in hopes of a TE1 this season. Here's the deal. Ferguson is being lowballed for recency bias. Fantasy players have so focused on that disappointment from last year that they've forgotten the big picture. First, touchdowns are notoriously volatile. A guy who scores 5 one year and 0 the next is owed inevitable positive regression. As long as Dallas remains pass-heavy on offense, Ferguson has to be considered as likely to rebound in the red zone as any other of the league's scoring faders. First, consider the Cowboys' offensive circumstances. They have the worst running back room in the NFL. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders were signed, but neither represents a confidence-inspiring lead back. Rookie Jaden Blue has shown flashes, but he's a day 3 pick and also dealing with an ankle injury. Translation: it's going to be a pass-first defense. Dallas defense has also regressed the other way, making for more shootouts. CeeDee Lamb is a target monster, And George Pickens is another addition to this year's class who stretches the field vertically. That leaves the space in the middle wide open for Ferguson. Dak Prescott has already demonstrated chemistry with him in his breakout season. And I'd expect that connection to be rekindled in 2025 after defenses continue to adjust to cover Lamb and Pickens. At the moment, Ferguson is being drafted as a tight end outside the top 10. I have him at TE7 overall, with clear top 5 upside. Verdict: don't be scared away by last year's dud. Ferguson is a bounce-back candidate who could prove to be a steal on draft day. Hunter Henry, New England Patriots. The last name on this list is the sleeper of all sleepers, Hunter Henry. Believe it or not, Henry is going undrafted in most 10 and even 12-team leagues. That's a mistake. He had 66 receptions for 674 yards and 2 touchdowns last season, which ranked 7th in the league among tight ends in receptions. Solid, if unspectacular. But context matters. Now the Patriots have Drake May back for a second season, and he's due for a big jump. Rookie quarterbacks often look their tight ends' way, and May already began to build a rapport with Henry last season. Sure, the Patriots added Stephon Diggs, but come on, he's washed up, has had some off-field issues, and might not even be a surefire WR1 anymore in his career. After Diggs, the Patriots are thin at receiver. Rookie Kyle Williams and Demario Douglas aren't real concerns for Henry's target share. And of course, there's the return of offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Historically, tight ends have excelled in his system. Most of that came from having elite players like Rob Gronkowski, but Henry is no slouch. He runs neat routes, has strong hands, and is a reliable red zone threat. In fewer words, Henry is a good bet to be a top 12 tight end and has a ceiling of a top 8-1. He's basically free in drafts, so he's probably one of the best late-round dart throws there is. Verdict: don't sleep on Henry. In the deeper leagues, he's a must-draft. For those in shallower leagues, he's an ideal waiver wire stash with weekly starter potential. Final thoughts: the tight end spot can be a minefield, but played correctly, it's also where you have the best chance to separate yourself in your league. Kelce is not a young man, but he remains a high-floor, high-ceiling player who is discounted because he's been in the league for a while. Ferguson is due for some positive regression and gets to play in Dallas offense. Henry is an afterthought with an actual avenue to weekly relevancy for next to nothing. Always remember, fantasy football is a game of value. Simply following names or fading certain players based on one down year isn't the way to go. But get into the situations, the usage, and the upside. If you're looking to win your league in 2025, at least one of these undervalued tight ends is worth a flyer. They could be the difference between a playoff run and a lost season. Backhand index pointing right, who's your favorite sleeper tight end this year? Drop your thoughts in the comments and share this article with your league mates, if you dare.